All right, today we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most important but maybe least understood parts of our economy, how companies get their hands on the billions of dollars they need to invent, to build, and to grow. I mean, you've probably wondered about this, right? It seems like this money just sort of appears out of thin air. But there's actually a very specific and honestly a fascinating process that turns a big idea into a fully funded reality. And we're going to walk through it step by step. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basic problem. A company needs cash. Then we'll meet the expert guides who help them get it. We'll look at how the actual deal gets put together, navigate all the important rules, and finally, we'll watch the big debut. Let's jump right in. Okay, so it all starts with this simple fact. A company has a vision. Maybe it's a revolutionary new piece of tech, a plan to build factories all over the world, you name it. But, visions don't pay for steel or salaries. They need cash. Or, as the financial world calls it, they need capital. And the official term for this whole process is capital formation. At its heart, it's really like a giant matchmaking service. It connects businesses that are hungry for money to grow with investors who have money and are looking for a place to put it to work. It is, quite literally, the engine that powers the economy.
Now, a company can't just, stand on a street corner and start selling shares of itself. They need a specialist, an expert guide for this journey. And that's where the underwriter comes in. This is almost always a big investment bank. Think of them like a book publisher helping an author get their book priced, printed, and into every bookstore in the country.
So you've really got two main players in this dance. On one side, you have the issuer. That's the company. They have the idea, they need the cash, and they're the ones creating the securities, like shares of stock. And on the other side, you have the underwriter. That's the investment bank. They bring the street smarts, the network, and the expertise to get those securities sold. Okay, so once the company and the bank team up, they've got to hammer out the deal. And the single most important question they have to answer is this. If things don't go perfectly, who's on the hook? Who is taking on the financial risk? This table breaks it down perfectly. In what's called a firm commitment, the bank buys the entire offering of stock from the company up front. The company gets its money guaranteed. If the bank can't sell all those shares to the public, well, that's the bank's problem. But in a best efforts deal, the bank is just an agent. They promise to try their best to sell the shares, but any unsold stock, that's the company's problem. As you can imagine, a big, established company can demand a firm commitment, while a smaller, riskier startup might have to settle for best efforts. Now, there is another way to do this called a Dutch auction. Google famously used this for its IPO. Instead of the bankers setting the price, they let the market decide. Investors all submit secret bids saying, I'll buy this many shares at this price. The bank then starts at the highest bid and works its way down until every single available share is spoken for. And that final price, the lowest one that got in, becomes the price that everybody pays. It's a really cool way to let pure supply and demand set the value. Of course, you can't just go out and start selling billions of dollars in stock without some rules. That's where the government steps in. Specifically, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. They act as the referee to make sure the whole process is transparent and fair for investors.
So, the process unfolds in these 4 key stages. First, the company files a massive document called a prospectus, detailing everything about its business, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That kicks off the cooling-off period, where the SEC reviews everything. During this time, no sales can happen, but the underwriters can send out a preliminary version, called a red herring, to start drumming up interest. And finally, if the SEC is satisfied with the disclosures, they declare the registration effective. Green light, the sale can begin.
In this quote right here is so important to understand. The SEC is not telling you if a company is a good investment. They are not giving it a stamp of approval. All they are doing is making sure the company has disclosed all the necessary information. They're like a food inspector, making sure all the ingredients are listed on the label. Whether you actually want to buy and eat that food, well, that decision is entirely up to you.
Okay, the paperwork is done. The investors are lined up. The SEC has given the thumbs up. Now we get to the main event. This is the moment the company actually sells its brand new securities and all that capital finally hits its bank account. This all happens in what's known as the primary market.
And this is another one of those distinctions that is absolutely critical. The primary market is that very first sale. The company creates new stock, sells it to investors, and the company gets the cash. This is where the capital is actually formed. Everything after that, all the trading you see on the news every day on the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ, that's the secondary market. That's just investors trading those already existing shares among themselves. The company doesn't see a dime from those transactions.
So, why does all of this matter? Because this whole system, this engine of capital formation, is what allows ideas to become reality. It funds the research for new medicines, the construction of new factories, the hiring of thousands of people. It's the mechanism that turns our collective savings and investments into the real-world growth and innovation we see all around us. It's a powerful system for sure. It brings together companies, banks, and investors to create enormous value. But it does leave us with a pretty interesting question to chew on. In this whole complex dance, who do you think really gets the best deal? The company getting the cash, the bank making the fees, or the first investors who get in on the ground floor? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.